Hello, I'm Barbara Peters. Welcome to this episode of the Criminal Calendar. We have an adventurous show for you today because our guest from England, Jason Goodwin. Hi, Jason.
Hello, Barbara.
See, I knew you'd know that as soon as he spoke, that he was British. Comes to us as an historian and a novelist, and in fact just has published his second novel, The Snake Stone, but won a huge award with the Janissary Tree. In fact, it was not only a huge award, but I gather a surprise award.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I can't remember. I mean, there was, I put it out of my head. There was no, it was given in New York. There I was in England, and I'd pretty much sort of put it behind me. I thought, well, you know, win some, lose some, and we won't be going for that one. And then one morning, I picked up the phone. There was a message on it, and there was this kind of sudden burst of ecstatic chat from Sarah Crichton in New York saying, "Yeah, you won! You've won!" It's like, what?
Now, what you won was, in fact, the Mystery Writers of America's highest award, the Edgar Allan Poe Award, for which you got a kind of anemic-looking Poe in a white statue with some sparkly blue, right?
Yeah, well, I haven't had it yet. Sarah said she has it. She's got it on her mantelpiece. It's too fragile to ship.
Oh, that's such a con. Well, you can admire mine over at the bookstore because I won the Raven Award for the Mystery Writers of America, and since they didn't have a Raven handy, they gave me an Edgar, and I'm not giving it back.
Well, I can check to see whether it is fragile and whether she's telling the truth or she just wants to have it on her mantelpiece.
No, I have it locked up. You're not throwing it to the floor. But the Edgar Allan Poe Award is given annually in several categories, and what's interesting, I think, about the Janissary Tree is that while it's your first novel, you weren't eligible for the Edgar for first novel because that's the one category that demands that the author be an American. So I was completely baffled when I saw Best Novel Award, and I rushed around thinking, wait, stop, it's his first. But what I did think was especially interesting is that your editor, Sarah, was so surprised. In fact, she was, I gather, when she stood up to accept for you, said something about, you know, how did it win?
Yeah, I think she...
A novel about a 19th century eunuch in Turkey?
Yeah, she did. She said they didn't think it was going to win. She said that they were too cheap to bring the author over from the UK.
Well, at least she was honest about it.
Yeah.
Is Sarah Crichton Michael Crichton's sister?
No, as far as I know, not.
Several people have said they thought she was because she's so tall and sort of looks like him.
Well, maybe that's okay. That's information I don't know.
But I'm not sure. You know, he published his first novel, which also won an Edgar, under a pseudonym of, I think it was Jeffrey Hudson, because he was a newly minted doctor, and in case it flopped, he didn't want any embarrassing repercussions.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to know that your doctor perhaps is also a, author of terrifying books.
That's true.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Sarah at least stood up and took a bullet for you.
She did, yeah. I think she did it very gracefully. She's a very amusing woman, and I think she said just the right thing. She was honest, and I guess I suppose I was surprised, but obviously delighted. It was a good field, and
yeah, she was a very
all
heavy
those books
competition.
deserve to win. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about it, and what certainly moved me to make it a first Mystery Club pick for The Poison Pen, was the fact that although this is in the 1830s in another world, the issues in it are contemporary, highly contemporary, in the sense that you've got Islamic conservatives faced with the West, faced with modernizing or not, faced with, and you've got a sultan whose mother, interestingly enough, is French.
Yes.
I love that. Is it pronounced Valide?
The Valide, yeah.
The Valide
the Queen Mother, yeah.
Right, who turns out to be a childhood friend of Empress Josephine, kidnapped by evil pirates and sold into the harem.
What a story.
You couldn't make it up.
No. I mean, that is a fantastic story, and so I couldn't let it go. It was first written about famously by Leslie Blanche, who wrote a book called The Wilder Shores of Love, which was about women who, in one way or the other, had been sort of captivated by the East. Richard Burton, the the man who translated 1001 Nights and so on.
Sir Richard Francis Burton.
Indeed, that Burton, not perhaps the more familiar one, and his wife and those people. And she wrote this wonderful chapter about the girl called Aimée Dubuc du Rivière, her name was, and she was raised on the island of Martinique, which is a French colonial island in the Caribbean, and her childhood friend there was another girl called Rose Tasha de whatever she was called, who later on, well, first of all, Aimée took ship, and she went to Paris as a young girl might. You know, at the age of 17, she was going to send off to Paris to marry well. Her ship was intercepted and taken. She was taken to Algiers, and then she was enslaved by the Corsairs, who, curiously enough, the Americans, that was one of their first foreign ventures, was the Young Republic went down there and, you know, I'm sure there's movies about it and things, but went down there and sorted out some of those Corsairs in Algeria.
Doesn't that have something to do with the Marine hymn, you know? The shores of Tripoli and all that?
Well, indeed, yeah.
I think it does. But yes, there were naval actions because the Corsairs were, in fact, so blatant and so dangerous that it imperiled American shipping.
Indeed. So they took it on there. But this was, anyway, say 30 years before, 40 years before. Poor Aimée ended up, as far as anyone knows, in the harem of the Sultan in Constantinople because she was so beautiful and, you know, unusual prize. The following year, nothing daunted, Rose, her friend, also took a ship to go to Paris and marry well. And she was rather more successful because she married Napoleon Bonaparte.
Right, having married the Beauharnais first, right?
Indeed, yeah. And her name became Josephine and so on. Not tonight, Josephine. Fame.
No, that was a poodle, but anyway, yes, I do think that the Valide Sultaness, the fabulous Sultana, rather, is a fabulous figure, but her son, Mahmud, is the one who is on the throne when you start your book, The Janissary Tree. Now, you know what we should do maybe is pause here for a moment, because what we're going to be doing is talking about Istanbul, Turkey in the 19th century. Maybe we should give our viewers on this program a chance to see a little video that you have done with some scenes of that beautiful city.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Great.
My name's Jason Goodwin, and I've been in Istanbul, the city at the center of the world, looking for traces of the squalor and the glory of Ottoman Istanbul. Behind me is the extraordinary waterway, the Bosphorus, the ancient waterway that connects the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, and in some ways brings the steppe and the whole world of the steppe and Russia and beyond Central Asia down towards the Mediterranean world. So this is an incredible place of crossing and passage. Asia behind me, I'm on the European side. The city I'm looking for is the one that Yashim would have known, the place where the Ottoman investigator lived, worked, and did his cooking. If you know the city, I hope I'll be bringing you some surprises. If not, here's a taste of treats in store. Istanbul may be a city of 17 million people today, but its roots in history are still very visible. It's been the capital of the Roman Empire, the Constantinople of the Greeks. After 1453, when it was taken by the Turks, it became the capital of the great Ottoman Empire, layer upon layer, sifting down one upon the other to Yashim's time in the early 19th century. The Ottoman legacy has its public face, great mosques, great palaces, survived from the age of sultans, and a whole civic world too, symbolized perhaps in the Grand Bazaar.